Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharni Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paskachani Dasatani Srila Prabhupada Ki. So we will look this evening at mantras 17 and 18, the two last mantras of the Isopanisad. I will start with reading. I'm recording. I will start with reading mantra 17. Vayuranilam amritam atedam bashmantam sariyam Om Katosmara Kitam Smara Katosmara Kitam Smara. Let this temporary body be burned to ashes, and let the air of life be merged with the totality of air. Now, O my Lord, please remember all my sacrifices, and because you are the ultimate beneficiary, please remember all that I have done for you. So it is a very intense emotion if you look at what's going to happen when you die. That what will happen after death is a serious matter. That so gravity is required. Srila Prabhupada, why do we need the Lord to remember? The Lord is always remembering us. So this is a prayer here that Ipla is asking to remember all the sacrifices that he did, all that I have done for you. So is this prayer pure devotional service? No. And why? Why is it not pure devotional service? Please?
He's asking for something in return.
He's asking for something in return. Very good. So this call for help is not pure devotional service. It's not on a pure devotional level. A pure devotee just surrenders and does not pray for anything for himself. So that does not mean that we have to look down on this prayer. No. The fact that someone is preparing for death and realize that everything is in the hands of the Lord is very glorious. So there is a need to prepare for death. So we have here an overview. It's quite a long purport, 15 paragraphs. Maybe the longest among the other purports. Mantra 18 has a short purport. But this is what Prabhupada discusses in the first 3 paragraphs. The material body is a foreign dress that must be given up. No choice, you must give it up. Paragraph 4 and 5. The best way to give up the body is surrendering to the Lord, not by going to merge into the Brahmajyoti. Then paragraph 6, 7. The importance of the last thoughts. And then 8, 9. Krishna never forgets our service to him. And 10, 11. Krishna's mercy is ever available through devotional service. Paragraph 12. Srimad Bhagavatam elaborates on this verse and all other verses. 13, 15. Prepare for death by devotional practice. Now, we can have 3 different attitudes to this body. Yes. they are mentioned. And that's overview here. Romanticize, utilize, or demonize. That the first is romanticize. Karma, one performs karma, work to get material enjoyment, like in the karma kanda. So one thinks that the body is a source of great pleasure. That's the first. Romanticize, because it's illusion, it's not. But the mentality of this karma kanda says the body is a source of pleasure. It is the very purpose of existence to enjoy the body. The supreme goal of life is sense gratification. The body is romanticized that it is a great source of pleasure. But how much pleasure can the body give? It's limited. So it is an imagination that the body is a source of great pleasure. The body is a road to pleasure that turns into a roadblock for pleasure. Shall I read it again? The body is a road to pleasure, can give you pleasure, but it turns into a roadblock for pleasure. The certain moment doesn't go anymore. So if a person becomes philosophically inclined at the body, then they understand the body is a trap. Material desires perpetuate our illusion. We think it's going to happen, but we don't get what we want. Actually, the body makes us forget our spiritual identity. That if we are absorbed in the body, we forget our spiritual identity. It makes us think that we are the body. What is the cause of the net? The net of illusion. Material desires. The body is filled with urine, blood, organs, etc. So we have in the Bhagavatam the story of Pururav. He wanted to enjoy. Then he became to his senses after his experience with Urvasi. He trying to enjoy a body made all this, When one realizes that this body is not a source of pleasure, then one comes to a point of extremely rejection of the body. I don't want it. But in Bhakti is different. We use the body in the service of the Lord, and thus explains, and Srila Prabhupada quotes that verse so many times, the activities of Maharaj Ambarish in the 9th canto. Savai Mana Krishna Padarapandeo Vachams Vaikunt Gunani Varnani Gaur Arir Mandir Marjana Disa Shutam Skrat Shutam Sat Katodaye. Maharaj Ambarish is always engaged in his mind in meditating on Krishna, his hands in cleansing the Lord's temple, his ears in hearing the words spoken by Krishna or about Krishna. So in Bhakti we utilize the body. That's different. Srila Prabhupada says that one must take care of the body now so that in the future we can take care of the soul. So a devotee utilizes the body. So romanticizing or demonizing the body are extremes. If you have a pendulum, it's extremes. Then the normal attitude is to use the body. That does not mean that we love the body. The urge to know comes from the Atma. Matter is dead and cannot experience anything. The body is a foreign dress and we need to give it up. We are dressed by our desires. Our desires causes the dress. The soul desires, and by that the subtle body is filled with these material desires and takes a certain form according to these desires. And at the time of birth, yes, we get the form that we desire according to what we deserve. So then the question is, how do we utilize the body? So when one becomes old and invalid, then still we do not give up the desire to enjoy. Giving up the body means giving up the desire to enjoy the body. That should be clear. So we speak about Brahma giving up different bodies in the Bhagavad. He accepts a certain body, a certain mentality, and he creates a living being and then gives it up. The same thing with us. With our desires, we create these bodies. So Krishna consciousness means changing our desires. So the whole process of spiritual life is to purify the subtle body. We speak about purifying of the mind and purifying of the heart, but it is the subtle body. The mind is part of the subtle body. And also the intelligence is must also be purified. And then you have false ego must be purified, but that's a result that will disappear when the mind and intelligence is pure. So the whole process is to purify the body. And when the body comes to its ends, the subtle body will create another gross body. So the person of Krishna consciousness is giving up the attachment to enjoy the body. So this is giving up by the performance of devotional service, bhakti. The preferred process is the art of bhakti. All things will die by the course of nature. Animals are driven by instinct, but humans, with their intelligence, can derive to a certain extent reality beyond the body. Srila Prabhupada talks about spiritual evolution, that the soul goes from lower to higher forms. He does not speak about an evolution of bodies. So, no. The last thought, we come to that. How deaf we will remember that in which we have sought shelter during most of our life. So, if the greatest shelter I sought is watching cricket, what will happen? Then our death will be a disastrous experience. If some found shelter in alcohol and cures, then there is always the chance of relapse. When there is reversal of depression, the default function of the mind is to take shelter in which it is habituated. That even after becoming devotees, we should be careful as our mind will gravitate around our attachment. But what is a test? If we leave the mind idle, then so many thoughts will come into our mind. As such, we can get to know more about our conditioned self. The mind is idle, and the mind immediately is going where the mind thinks that pleasure is available. So, antakal samami va smaran antakalevram. It is remembering. So if you are attached to enjoyment of the body, then you will remember the enjoyment of the body. It is not a chance game, but I will remember at the time of death. If we remember Krishna during our lives, even if we cannot remember Krishna at the time of death, Krishna will remember us. So, yes, Krishna's eyes here. How can he be both animisha and nimisha? So, animisha means the devotee notices the service. Yeah, the Lord notices the service of the devotee. And nimisha closes his eyes when we make accidental mistakes. So the purpose of the coach is to focus on the potential of the athlete and help him to develop the potency to eradicate faults. So Draupadi brought some fruits to Krishna with a knife to cut the fruits. When Krishna used the knife to cut the fruits, he cut his finger and blood started to come out. Then Draupadi ripped a part of her sari and started to bandage the finger. Krishna was peaceful, but Draupadi was concerned, and Krishna said, I will remember this service and repay you for this. Interesting, Mahabharata. For this, Krishna gave her unlimited sari in return. You remember? So Krishna did this for the sake of Lila. He let blood manifest from his body. Like we have Bhutan was going to kill Krishna, but she felt also motherly affection for Krishna. And Krishna, overlooked the fault of Bhutan and still brought her to the spiritual world. So this is Krishna. Krishna always remembers our service. Krishna is noticing that, he will reward us for every single service we do. It is not that we want reward for service, we only want to serve Krishna. So even if there is no direct reciprocation, we know that Krishna is watching every single service that we do. Krishna never forgets the service that we do. So Krishna does not even forget us when we have completely forgotten him. So we find that here in Srila Prabhupada's purport, but it's important to hear about Krishna. And we hear about Krishna, how he reciprocates with his devotee. And that's very important. Then we know who Krishna is. We get to know him. And that gives faith, because you will experience that this is true during your lives. Krishna reciprocates. And that gives more faith. So Krishna is unfalling love. He's ever waiting. He's in our heart and waits for us to return back to him. He wants us to return back to him. A person waits for another person for 1 hour and then becomes irritated. He's late. But Krishna waits with unlimited patience. Krishna is waiting even if we forget him or become against him. He's never upset with us. Nothing can stop from Krishna loving us. There is nothing I can do from the sun rising, yet I can close my eyes and not see the light. So Krishna is also ever working. So Kajendra prays, I surrender unto you. Please liberate me. Have mercy on me. O Lord, you never get tired. So the Lord is constantly trying to get us back. Whatever little work we do to turn to Him is very tiny, what the Lord does for us. Even if I express my gratitude for the Lord, then still it will not be enough. The Lord internally and externally is working to purify us externally as the Guru, the Sadhu and Shastra. So we cannot let the so-called love in this world to become substitutes for our love for Krishna. And now Prahlad Maharaj says, Shravana Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam Archanam Vandanam Dasyam Atmani Vednam. Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam Pada Sevanam Archanam Vandanam Dasyam Sakrivam Atmani Vedanam. 9 forms of devotional service. And they are described in the purport. Srila Prabhupada lists them, that hearing about Krishna, remembering Krishna, glorifying Krishna, serving His lotus feet, Pada Sevanam. Archanam means deity worship the deity. Vandanam is offering prayers. Dasyam, serving Krishna. Sakyam, that become friends with Krishna. Atmani Vedanam, surrender complete to Krishna. So this is the 9 poses of devotional service, which were mentioned by Prahlad Maharaj to his father, and his father did not like it. He became angry. But that's the process. If you want to attain success at the time of death, then the model is the Srimad Bhagavatam. All information is there, what to do. Now, yes, now there is time for practicing. We must practicing now. That the present is all what we have, and is all what we will have ever. So be in the present with your consciousness fixed on Krishna. Don't go forward, making plans in this world which are futile. Don't go back. Don't lament about what went wrong, because everything will go wrong in this world fine. So be in the present. It's not worthwhile to strive for things in this world. It's not worthwhile to lament for what's going back. Soon you are out of the picture, out of the body. So it doesn't make sense. Just fix your mind on Krishna. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Bhaktam Saratapsam Sarvadokmashpanam Suridam Sarvabhutanam Kyatvamam Santim Rajtati. You get peace if you focus your mind on Krishna with the understanding that He is the proprietor of everything and the enjoyer. And He's my only friend. My only friend. We have so many friends in this world at the time of birth, all finished, gone, but not a relationship with Krishna. That is an eternal relationship. If you are fully Krishna conscious at the time of death, your consciousness will not be reduced, will continue. That if we must attain that stage of always absorbing in Krishna. And not just absorbing, we are chanting, but the chanting should not be superficial. The absorption in the chanting and in Krishna should become deep, very deep. And that's what we must focus on. Deep, not just on the surface. But, so yeah, our mind, because our mind is lamenting and planning. The mind is going to the past and the future, and we cannot, and we lose the present. That's the only thing we have. That we often treat the present as unimportant. We think that the future is important. If we have an uncaring attitude toward the present, we lose the future, and the future will become the present. Anyway, that's word circularly. We need to purify ourselves, and now is the moment to purify ourselves. That we will have similarly distractions in our life. This brings the urgency to our lives. We shouldn't postpone our spiritual practice for the future. Spiritual practice can be the attitude we have. The attitude for spiritual life is important. Attitude has to be cultivated. Right now, whatever I have, let me offer that to Krishna. If we practice devotional service with this devotional attitude, then we can make spiritual advancement. Devotional attitude. So that was mantra 17. Let's go to mantra 18, finish it, and then we can have question and discussion. So, mantra 18, how the omnipotent Lord guides the devotees to perfection. Now, before I read the verse, a recap. So, what did we look at in this Isopanisad? The invocation, the first mantra. We heard about the Lord is complete, even if many complete units come from Him, still He remains complete. And we heard about the Isavasya principle, the principle that, yes, that Isha is the controller, the owner of everything, and that we have a right to our quota, and we should learn to live in harmony. And then we had 5 verses discussing different aspects how Ishvara can be understood by spiritual vision. That the Lord, you may remember, the Lord is swifter than the mind, runs swifter than the mind. The Lord has no veins. That so many other points we made. And then we have 3 verses explaining right vidya and wrong vidya, right knowledge and wrong knowledge. And in each of the 3 verses, avidya and avidya had a different meaning. So you need to know that for your test. That's essential. And the same in the next 3 verses. There we have Sambhuti and Asambhuti. That's worshipping what is supreme and what's not supreme. And yes, you have to know the meaning of each of these verses. In the last section, we are finalizing now is this prayer to Ishvara. Ishvara. That just there. So we have heard before in the previous prayers that the spiritual seeker or the devotee is praying to take away the impersonal effulgence so that he can see the Lord. That was the first prayer, and now that's the second. Here we hear in this. These were the two first mantras, so 15 and 16, that where the devotee prays to remove the impersonal effulgence. And now the last two verses, from which we discussed just the first one, that prays for removing obstacles on the devotional path. So the last mantra is also a similar prayer, mantra 18. Achnenaya supatarache asman vishvani deva payunani vidvam yutyo yasma yuhuranam eno Puyistam te nama uktim videma. O my Lord, as powerful as fire, O omnipotent one, now I offer you all obeisances falling on the ground at your feet. O Lord, please lead me to the right path to reach you, and since you know all that I have done in the past, please free me from the reactions to my past sins, so that there will be no hindrance to my progress. Yes. So that so this is not a prayer for one's maintenance in this world. No. Most people think that the purpose of God's existence is to help me in this world. It is true that God is willing to help us also in this world. But ultimately Lord Krishna wants to take us out of this world and bring him back to him. So the purpose of this prayer is to remove the obstacles of going back to God. So the prayer is very much devotional in its mood, but also in its content. So we have here, this is the overview. It's a shorter purpose than the previous verse. The first paragraph discusses how obstacles on the spiritual path originate. Then 2-4. Achieving perfection, the gradual way and the quick way. And then the last point, how the omnipotent Lord guides a devotee, 4-8. So from the first paragraph, I will read, the Lord is addressed as fire, because he can burn anything into ashes, including the sins of the surrendered soul. So our past reactions, our past actions give reactions, and that causes us miseries in two ways. in two ways. External. External is the problems that we face in our life. We may get sick or lose our job. We may have some problems in the society in which we are living. And we may have to leave from that place for some time. So we may have to relocate at certain situations. Also, there are internal problems that comes as reactions, which is our own lust, the anger, the greed, the envy, the pride, the illusion, that they may rise up and may drive us away from Krishna. They are also sinful reactions. So there are external, these are physical reactions, and internal, psychological reactions. So the ways of conditioning comes and shakes the boat in these two forms. So the thoughts in the mind are not expressed until they have expressed physically. So then we call that a slip or a fall. Someone has fallen because he does something which is not against devotional service. Sinful. So we all have slips and falls in our spiritual life. We let the past conditions take control. So no one can blame the past conditions for our present condition. It is like blaming gravity for sinking the ship. Gravity is there for all the boats in the ocean. If the boat is managed carefully, then the boat will not sink. Gravity is responsible for the sinking of the boat, but gravity is not the ultimate cause. No, gravity is the ultimate cause. There is an intermediate cause. So gravity is a common cause for everyone. The ultimate cause for everything is Krishna. So gravity is not the ultimate cause. So Krishna does not cause our fall down. There are laws of material nature, and if we do not follow the laws or protect us from the laws, then we will fall. Does that make sense? So if there is a hole in a boat, then the boat sinks. We cannot blame gravity for the sinking of the boat. There is a hole in. So who is the cause? The person who made the hole, or the person who did not repair it? But we can never blame our conditioning for our faults. The process of devotional service is like a boat. We are in the material ocean, and in the ocean we will be dragged down by our conditions. But in the boat of devotional service, we are safe. Just a moment. So we have Bhagavad Gita 4:36. Abhishata sababhyo sababhyo papakitama sarvanyam plaveniva vijnam santarishyasi. Even if you are considered to be the most sinful of all sinners, when you are situated in the boat of transcendental knowledge, you will be able to cross over the ocean of material miseries. So the boat is competent to take us over the ocean. If we, at least the boat will bring us over the ocean if we don't jump out of the boat. If we practice devotional service and we continue secretly sinful activities, then we make holes in the boat. When there is when a storm comes up, then we take shelter of Krishna. In all these situations, gravity can be blamed. We have to take the responsibility. When we are overcome by Maya, then we are not just victims. It are we who choose to do sinful activities. Srila Prabhupada explains this in the purport. Such vikarma is enacted by the illusioned living entity for sense gratification. All such activities become hindrances on the path of self-realization. So how does one overcome all of this? One is the gradual way and the other is the rapid way. The gradual way is that one starts to cultivate the Brahminical culture, come to goodness. The gradual way is striving vigorously to develop certain qualities. Srila Prabhupada talks about that. Srimad Bhagavatam 6.1.13. This is a verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam which explains how we can concentrate the mind. You want to know how to concentrate the mind? 6.1.13. Tapasa brahmacharyana samena sadamena chatyagena sachaso sabhyam yamena niyamena vam. To concentrate the mind, one must observe a life of celibacy, first thing, and not fall down. One must undergo the austerity of voluntary giving up sense enjoyment. Voluntary giving up sense enjoyment. One must then control the mind and senses, give charity. But if you give charity, your attachment to possessiveness goes on. Be truthful, because mostly we are lying because to protect our sense gratification or what we want to achieve. We want to get something for ourselves, and if we tell the truth, we are not going to get it. One must be clean and non-violent. Follow the regulative principles. Means also the regulative principles of bhakti. Positive principles, also chanting, that performing service and so on. And regularly chant the holy name of the Lord. By this practice, one becomes purified. This is a gradual way, but this may take long. The quick way is to connect with a spiritual master and learn devotional service. That's the quick way. Then we become more quickly purified. Of course, it's a quick way, but it still goes together with the other principles also. We must follow them. But we do it through devotional service. If we think of Krishna, then our mind is automatically controlled. We cannot think of something else. So becoming purified is like removing fog. Fog is everywhere around. Difficult to remove if there is fog. Do they have sometimes fog in New York? Happens. Yeah. But when the sun rises, what happens? The fog dissipates. So when we develop devotion for Lord Krishna, then we chant His holy names. in that same chapter, Agamdum Vanti Karsneam, then when we chant holy names, we become completely purified. And that's confirmed then in one verse further, 6:115. That's this is an introduction to the chapter, and these are the first verses as an introduction to the story of Ajamil. And that will be the practical example. Keshit kevalya bhakta vaste parayana agamdum vanskarsnya niram eva paskara. Only a rare person who has adopted complete unalloyed devotional service to Krishna can uproot the weeds of sinful action with no possibility that they will revive. He can do this simply by discharging devotional service, just as the sun can immediately dissipate fog by its rays. So only this complete unalloyed devotion will change the root of our desires. Nothing else can do that. Therefore, the process of jnana and karma that will help us to get rid of our reactions, but the desire to enjoy is still there. That it may even be diminished, but the root is still there. And there we have, this is Sukadev Goswami tells Maharaj Parikshit, yes. It is like you have a bamboo forest, and you cut all the bamboos just above the root. So the whole forest is gone, only the roots are there. And then the rainy season starts and start to grow again. And then the forest is there again. So if we don't remove the roots, the desire to enjoy is still there. And that is what Sukadev Goswami says here. To uproot the weeds of sinful action, so that you don't desire it anymore. Only by bhakti. So, and devotional service is more effective also, because one depends on the strength of the Lord rather than on our own strength. So you have these three, these are karma, karma and vikarma on the screen. So akarma means devotional service. And that's the elevator. Quick. Karma kanda is a slow way up to become eventually liberated. Not yet Krishna conscious, liberated. That many lifetimes. And vikarma are sinful activities that takes us down to lower species, lower planets, and so on. So today most people are engaged in vikarma. So we are these vikarmis, we try to elevate them. So of course most of them don't want to be elevated by us, fine, but we don't want to be dragged down by them. So we don't need to have a sense of superiority that I'm better. No, we did the same things before, probably. But no one wants to be devalued. But moral and legal activities are mostly in the realm of karma. It will depend on the devotee's consciousness. When our consciousness is one of service to the Lord, then all our activities are karma. It's our different consciousness. In this world we cannot avoid some contamination. Fire is covered by smoke, they say. Yes, but the devotee tries to spiritualize all his activities. But even on that path there are obstacles and a devotee may fall down. So we have material and spiritual activities. Material activities are for the maintenance of the body, and spiritual activities are performed through devotional service. During the material activities, one may be dragged down by sin. While doing karma, one may fall down to vikarma. So how does the devotee protect him? By the practice of devotional service. By the practice of the devotional service, one gets strength, one gets determination, one gets intelligence, that one can pull oneself out of the trap that tempts a person to do these things. Unless one is fixed in devotional service, we may have occasional relapses into sin. If a person is engaged steady in devotional service, then these relapses should be overlooked. The devotee should be encouraged to continue practicing devotional service. Srila Prabhupada gives an explanation of the omnipotence of the Lord. Such is the omnipotence of the Lord. He can make a man born in a Brahman family as degraded as a low-born dog-eater. And he can also make a low-born dog-eater superior to a qualified Brahman simply on the strength of devotional service. There are verses in the Bhagavatam which are illustrating that. Srila Prabhupada is talking of the omnipotence of the Lord in terms of the transformation of the heart that it can bring about. By the pose of bhakti, Krishna is lifting up a person. Krishna supplies the rope to get out of the well. What makes us pure is Krishna's grace. Our duty is to constantly practice devotional service without falling down. Bhagavad Gita 6th chapter. Yato yato nishanati manashansanamastiram tatastato indiyam yata atmaneva vasamnayat. From wherever the mind wanders, Krishna says, due to its flickering and unsteady nature, one must withdraw it and bring it back under the control of the self. So Srila Prabhupada explains the omnipotence of the Lord in two ways. First, when we is at the bottom of the lake, the Lord can just pull this person up. Even a dog eater can be elevated to the highest position. The dog eating is indicating the mentality of the person. Because the consciousness of the person is so low, she or he eats such things. Srila Prabhupada says that the Lord can make one born in a Brahman family more degraded than a dog eater. Does the Lord want to make someone more degraded than a dog eater? Does the Lord want someone to fall down? No, the Lord does not deliberately want anyone to fall down. But the Lord controls the powers in material nature. So Maya Sakti is also Krishna's energy. Saintliness does only come by the grace of the Lord. A Brahmin is considered very deliberated But if the Brahman does not use the rope of Dharma, then he also will fall down. We must practice. So the mind is extremely powerful. The only way the mind can become God conscious is taking shelter of Krishna. So Krishna says, among the senses I am the mind. The devotee should remain above the gravity of material desires. So the omnipotence of the Lord. So have more faith in his ability than doubt our own inability. So the point here is that the omnipotence of the Lord means that whatever my limitations are, Krishna's strength is stronger than my limitations. So Krishna is omnipotent and he will help me. Once we are fixed in Krishna, then Krishna will lift us up. Srimad Bhagavatam 11.5.42. These are the Navayogendras instructing King Nimi, and 11.5.42 is Karabhajana Yogendra instructing King Nimi. Savada mulam pachata priyasya Tyaktanya bhavasya riparisa Vikarmayatsut patitam katanchit Donoti sarvam ritisannivista. So one who has given up all other engagement and has taken shelter of the lotus feet of Hari, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is very dear to the Lord. Indeed, if a surrendered soul accidentally commits some sinful activity, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is seated in everyone's heart, immediately takes away the reaction to such sin. In the purpose, Srila Prabhupada writes, the Lord is so kind to the devotee who is fully surrendered to his lotus feet that even though the devotee sometimes falls into the entanglement of vikarma, so he acts against the Vedic direction, the Lord at once rectifies such mistake from within the heart. This is because the devotees are very dear to the Lord. So these verses gives us faith that Krishna wants to help us. Krishna is in our heart, not to catch us, but to coach us. Yes. So the battle against the anarthas, the unwanted things in the heart, the contamination of the heart. First, helpless defeat. We try to fight without conditioning, or we try. When someone tells us not to eat meat, fish, eggs, nor sex intoxication, we say, forget Krishna consciousness. We feel it's impossible to live without these things. So the struggle and the defeat, the devotee decides, I'm going to fight determinedly, with determination. Then, when the temptation comes, the struggle comes. At least one is putting up the fight. So struggle and success. Here one thinks my goal is not to enjoy and go back to Godhead. Also struggle is there, but one gradually moves to success. Most devotees, they become strong enough to give up strong sinful activities, but one does face the struggle. We inquire from devotees what to do and what not to do. Krishna sends help in the form of devotees, counselors, deities, holy Dham, Guru, etc. And now the effortless success. A devotee has lost the inclination for the temptation, becomes advanced. The more one becomes purified, the more this dragging down stops. The real magic of the devotee is in the heart, the purification that takes place. As long as we nourish our devotional practice, we will make progress. If we keep practicing every day, the hearing and chanting are like the food for the soul. Then gradually we will come to success by rendering devotional service. Rendering the best service we can. Very few devotees may struggle with their tongue. Practicing in the beginning is not easy. Enjoyment is presented, and you need to say no. We need to fight a battle. Stop this nourishment. So here. So we never lose till we lose hope. Krishna gives us always opportunities to advance in devotional service. If we fight a war and we think that our weapon is a burden, then we will soon end up in the graveyard. As long as we have our weapons, we may get wounded, but we will never be defeated. A devotee will be checked, but not checkmated. Not checkmate. We lose when we lose hope. So Krishna has not lost hope on us for many lifetimes. Is still in our heart, waiting. Then why should we lose hope? In a short lifetime we can become liberated. It is possible, and it is a glorious struggle. The fruit is eternal happiness. Srila Prabhupada said, we operate on the platform of serving Krishna. So as devotees, if we look at the world and look at the mind, we will become discouraged. Therefore, as devotees, we look at Krishna. We keep our vision on Krishna. It is a matter of our own determination. The person in the well has to hold the rope and Krishna will pull him up. Srila Prabhupada's purport at the end here, he says, the devotee becomes fully enlightened by virtue of devotional service, and thus he comes on the path of the Lord, and the way to attain him, as all doubts diminish, he becomes a pure devotee. And then we have, of course, that whole process is explained in Bhagavad Gita, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, the first canto. In the second chapter of the first canto, that's a summary of the principles of the whole Bhagavatam. And start with text 16. Susrusho Shadadhanasya Vastiv Kataruchi Shanma Sevya Vipra Punya Tirtanishe Vanat. So this verse explains Susrusho Shadadhanasya. We must hear with great care and attention about Krishna. But at the same time, because at the same time we have to serve the Mahatma, follow the instructions of the spiritual master. Serve his instructions is Vani. And then we get Ruchi, Gataruchi, we get taste for hearing about Krishna. That develops that taste. And when Krishna sees we have that taste, what will he do? Shrimvata Svagata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Ritam Tato Yabatrami Vidanot Surchitam. Krishna from within the heart will take away all these anarthas, these unwanted things. So how does that work? Nastavya Savatra Nityam Bhakta Sevya Bhagavata Tamaskri Bhakti Bhavati Naistiki, by regular attendance of the class of the Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the pure devotee. Here began these two, hearing the Bhagavatam and rendering service, follow the instructions of the spiritual master. Then all what is troublesome to the heart is newly, completely destroyed. You notice that work tatorjata mogava kama lopasaya siyasate saterate anavitam stitve sattva prasidati. The influence of the mode of passion and ignorance surely diminishes, and one comes to goodness. And passion and ignorance goes away. The passion makes us identify with the body, that passion and the ignorance leads us to sinful activities. So one comes to goodness and becomes peaceful. And if one becomes to goodness, evam pansamanasa, bhakti yoga, evam pansamanasa, bhakti yoga dokshaya, say, then Bhagavat, for the next verse, dokshaya, evam pansamanasa, Bhagavat bhakti yoga, Bhagavat tattva vijnanam, mukta sangrasya jayate. Then the verse says, yes, then one becomes peaceful. If you become peaceful, not distracted by desires to enjoy or to do sinful activities, then you are peaceful. And then Bhagavat Bhakti Yogata. Then you start to develop devotion really. And when you develop devotion, Bhagavat Tattva Vijnanam, then you start to understand the real truth, the Tattva. And then you come to the platform of liberation. And when you come to the point of liberation, then Vidyate Ejantis Sityanti Sarvasamsaya Syanti Sasya Karmani Dristvaivatvan Anishvari. Vidyate Ejantis, this hard knot in the heart that makes us identify with the body, is broken. It's gone. And then all your doubts are gone. You feel the presence of Krishna. You know the truth. And then Syanti Sasya Sarma Karmani, all your sinful actions go away. Then Tristva Evat Manishvaram, you understand yourself, the spirit soul and the super soul, and you see both. So thus the knot in the heart is pierced, all misgivings are gone, the chain of fruitive actions terminated, and we see the self and the super soul as master. So that is the end of this verse. Any questions, please? Yes, Tulsi.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, this is
Controlling the mind.
Bhagavan Haridar.
Sometimes we may engage ourselves on a gross level in the practices of devotion service, but still we feel our mind is not completely under control.
Yeah, Srila Prabhupada. So the question is, yes, sometimes we may engage in the gross level in our devotional service, but still the mind is uncontrolled. Yeah, that is bhakti. Bhakti, Srila Prabhupada translates as devotional service. The service is the external part. Devotion is the internal part. So, when I told that in a previous lecture somewhere. So if Brahmananda, here in Ryoka, Srila Prabhupada, Swamiji, you want us to, you instruct us to bow down for you, but I don't feel bowing down. And Srila Prabhupada replied, just bow down and the feeling will come. So that's the point. We do it externally and gradually it will come, that the internal will follow. But it needs some time. Like Krishna is patient, we should also be patient. But we should be conscious that, yes, I must follow with my consciousness. I do it for Krishna. So when you chant, don't try to chant too quick or too slow or whatever. Try to absorb in the chant, quality chant, deep chanting, feeling Krishna. That it's not easy. That it takes some time before we get to that level of Evan Prasna Manasa, peaceful mind. That is peaceful mind. It's understood a mind that is not disturbed by material desires. It's not that Arjuna, when he was fighting, that his mind was peaceful. He had to fight, but he was not disturbed by material desires. He was focusing and doing it for Krishna. That's what I can say.
So when material desires comes, what shall we do?
The question is, when material desires come, what should we do? We should observe them and not follow them, and understand it's dangerous. It's material desire. I don't want it. And then it goes away. But, try to observe your mind. We are not a mind. If you identify with the mind, you grab the desire and you think, it's my desire. You should not do that. Just leave it there and let it go. It comes in the mind and it goes. That should be our program. But if we are too busy with Krishna consciousness, too busy engaged, we don't have time for these desires. Sometimes I would say, I'm too much service. It's a blessing. No time for Maya, no time for all these desires, no time on feeling so. No. You are blissful, engaged, thinking of Krishna. And something else.
In one place it was mentioned that if it happens that, I think that was the way how it was said, if a devotee who is fully surrendered to Krishna, sometimes, occasionally, like by mistake he commits a sinful activity. So I was thinking these two things, they apparently don't go together. A fully surrendered devotee and sinful activity. Can you explain this? Like in my mind this
Fully surrendered and still occasionally fall down. That is so Abhichat Shudraj Sharo Bhajanti Mamananya Bhak Sadarev Samantafya Samyak Vyavasito Isa 9:30 Bhagavad Gita. Even if one commits the most abominable action, if he is engaged in devotional service, is not to be considered. He is to be considered saintly because he is properly situated in his determination. Yeah. Yeah, fully surrendered. One can be fully surrendered, but even a fully surrendered devotee can have a moment of weakness or inattention. And a moment in attention, Maya will take advantage. And Dayate Vishapam Sangrasti Sivajayate Sanya Sanyate Kama Kama Koda Vijayate Bhagavad Gita 262. One meditates Dayate on something and you become attracted. And before you know, it's too late. Krishna says, even one of the roaming senses can ruin everything. And sometimes what happens, we don't want. But of course, one can be fully surrendered and not yet be pure. That is not the same. One is fully surrendered, one will become pure. And still this impurity is a moment of inattention. And there you go. So every devotee has that experience. But at a certain moment one must come to the platform of being steady in his devotional service. And then one becomes stronger in Krishna consciousness. And then that will happen very rarely, or not happen anymore. Does that make sense? Okay. Good, something else? Good, I hope this was useful, this course. There's a lot of points made here that but I would say if you study the Bhagavad Gita, after studying the Bhagavad Gita, hear it again, and you will find yourself that you will find that you will go deeper in understanding if you hear it after studying Bhagavad Gita. And then you can study the Bhagavatam, and afterwards hear it again. You will again go deeper in the understanding of this Isopanisad. Because Srila Prabhupada quotes a lot of verses of the Bhagavatam, and I've quoted some of them, but then you will know these verses and how they fit into the context and get again a deeper understanding. Good. Thank you very much. I wish you all the best, and I hope I was of any service. I could be of any service. Hare Krishna, Sai Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna. Yes, sir.
Recording.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.